World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
Hello, 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 and welcome once again to another fantastic hour of Leverage Your Score. And it is my profound pleasure, joy. What other great words can we use? Excitement and opportunity to do what I do best, which is help you, the population, the public, the fellow Americans to now start thinking about life in a different understanding as we welcome in a new season here on Soul City Network. I am super excited about the great content that we're going to be delivering. I'm super excited about the guests that we're going to be having. I'm super excited about how we now, with all of the information that we have gathered over the last 10 years, ladies and gentlemen, we are a wealth of knowledge. We are looking to take financial literacy now to that next level. And we're going to need you. We're going to need you, every single last one of you. Let's put all of our doubts, let's put all of our fears, let's put all of our concerns and issues to the side, and let's think about coming together. Because if we unify, if we bring all of that wealth of knowledge to the table and that fear too to the table, we're going to be able to change the course, change the trajectory, change the direction of what we have not been able to have, which is financial stability, financial freedom, financial wherewithal. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that this is a new season. And if you want what you desperately need, then you're going to have to put down some of those things. You're going to have to stop scrolling. You're going to have to make time to come to the conversation. And the conversation is starting tonight, right here on Soul City Network. I'm asking those of you who are already tuned in. Soul City, our programmings are available nationally on Comcast, Roku, Fire TV, Verizon. We are doing our thing. And we want you to add some questions as the program itself gets going. And this is about you. This is about the African American diaspora. It's about our Hispanic brethren and sister. And it's about our Middle Eastern, our Asian, our intertwined communities that we have. It's about our Caucasian brothers and sisters. It's about those who were shut out in the longest shutdown of this country. It's about all of us. Financial literacy has to now start taking first and front row seat in every household, in every school, in every back office, in every platform that's available. And I'm looking for anyone who is in that space who can join in the conversation, looking for nonprofit organizations, looking for profit businesses, academic facilities, whether you are the preparatory stage or whether you are the higher academic stage. You need to know what we know. And once you do, once you feel comfortable, then we'll let you fly off like a little birdie and make your way throughout. But until that time happens, you're going to need a coach. You're going to need a professional. You're going to need someone who can navigate you through the complexities. And again, some of it is pretty easy too, the simplicities of what you are going to need moving forward. I've been writing like a madman. Please, if you get the opportunity to go to Substack, Real Ones in the Room, that is another opportunity for you to dive in, get a look at who I am, and also start thinking about some of those important things that you're going to need to know as you enter into 2026. As I said, 10 years. 11 actually. I've been back in my hometown for 11 years. 11 years I've been back in my hometown doing what I do best, which is putting that information out there. And I have to tell you, it's been a reward in some degree, and it's also been heartbreak in another. But nevertheless, I know my mission. I know what I am here to do. And what I'm here to do is to make sure that each and every single one of us become financially literate, that we don't just sit on that financial literacy, that we make sure that we're having that conversation at the dinner tables. We make sure we're having that conversation in the barbershops, your local watering hole. It doesn't matter. Wherever you are, the conversation needs to be ongoing, because if we come together, our dollar is already powerful. It's powerful in the consumption mode, but it's not powerful in that mode in which we need it to be, which is in that investing, in that saving, and in that growth mode. All right. But I can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. What I am going to do is I'm going to shut up a little bit, but I'm going to do something first. I'm going to introduce my very first guest. Actually, not my very first guest, because 2 weeks ago we had Antonio Kenyatta and we had Sam, the grant writer, and that was a fabulous, fabulous show. And I'm just going to keep building off of that momentum. So who I have tonight is an educator who has garnered much accolade in her role as in empowering youth and families with the tools and skills required to make informed financial decisions, from budgeting and credit scores to entrepreneurship and interview preparation. Working in education since she was 14. Okay. Erodita Anderson is now a guidance counselor who began her career in an alternative school, working with at-risk students who were not on the track to graduate. In addition to focusing on post-secondary readiness and entrepreneurship with students, she is extremely passionate about preparing the next generation for financial responsible leaders. Her passion led her to facilitate workshops at the Boys and Girls Club, which opened the doors to leading high school financial literacy programs and hosting an annual, I'm giving it up to her right now, youth entrepreneurship fairs through Power to Plan youth financial literacy and entrepreneur programs. To make financial literacy engaging and applicable, Erodita launched a saving challenge among students. Because it was successful, she sought to make the challenge and 12 fundamental financial literacy topics accessible to all youth. This inspiration led to the creation of her work, which quickly became the number one, okay, hear that again, ladies and gentlemen, the number one release on Amazon, the Power to Plan Student Planner and Financial Literacy Workshop. And her second work, My 12 Envelopes, a quick guide to credit score, savings, budgeting, and entrepreneurship. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome to the program, Erodita Anderson.
Hi, good evening.
Hello. Well, I can't thank you enough. I was on your program yesterday, and I wanted to continue the conversation because it was so passionate, it was so on fire, and I just could not, after having that one brief moment with you. And again, welcome to the Soul City Network family. You are going to be amazing. Your bio just in itself lets me I'm joyful. I'm super excited when I can see queens doing the things that they need to be doing for our young princes and our young princesses. So thank you for making the time. Please, could you share what I may not have shared with our audience?
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here with you again, Tyrone. I appreciate the work you are doing. I think you pretty much covered all of it in the bio. We at Power to Plan, we really want to focus on providing families and youth with the tools required to make informed financial decisions. So our goal is pretty much to help youth and families have a good relationship with money.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you very much. Again, you and I live and reside in that same space. It's about making sure that the youth of today have the empowerment, the motivation, the desire, the wherewithal to withstand some of these important challenges that are going to now start to fall in their lap. It was so amazing for me yesterday. I was in school, in the high schools, and I got to talk to some of the high school students about what are some of their fears and what are some of their concerns. Can you elaborate a little bit? What are you hearing from your students and the individuals that you get to see on a regular basis? What are some of their fears and some of their concerns?
Some of their fears and some of their concerns, well, certainly, we have this introduction to AI now. So those conversations have really changed their concerns about what to study in college and researching certain careers, that can outlive AI possibly. And then, of course, there's always building that wealth, right? And making sure that they can live comfortably. So I think that starts the conversation about how to manage their money responsibly.
And that is, it is so true, because I've noticed that this generation is more boisterous. They're more opinionated. They got their own little style about them. And God knows they don't almost want to say nothing. They think they got it all. But when it comes to that resource, I tell them, oh, you better marry rich. If you do not, I don't know too many rich folks even that are going to take on those who are that boisterous. But it's super important, now that you brought up that AI understanding, that they're looking at 100 million jobs that could be snatched away from this next generation of thrivers and go-getters. And they are, as I said, they are passionate and they want it. What would you say to a youth that was unsure about college? What would you say to that person, knowing that, again, that's going to be a debt they're going to take on? We know college student loan debt is roughly around that 1.8 trillion dollars. How would you convey to them that it's worth it, or is there another alternative?
Yeah, so it's so funny that you asked this question, because I think even when I became an educator, I always had a different stance on college, right? Of course, I work at a college preparatory school, but I think very early on, I realized that college is not for everyone. And I know some parents may not want to hear this, and, they may not want their young people hearing this either, but just working with young people and just seeing how even my friends who I've been friends with since high school have navigated life, I personally understand that college is not for everyone. And I also know that, sometimes you may not necessarily get the security that you want from college, but there are some students who may say, oh, I just want to go straight into the workforce. And, maybe I would suggest exploring some sort of post-secondary readiness programming. So maybe you might want to get a certification, right? Maybe you want to join a union so that you have that type of security. So if you don't want to go to college, hey, you know what? I am not here to force you, right? but you still should do something that will still give you some sense of job security. So whether that is some sort of certification or training, you certainly want to have a good backup plan if you are not on the path to college, for sure.
I know some of my kids that I get to see on a regular basis, they're like, oh, I just got out of 12 years. I don't necessarily want to do another. But I always tell them it's good to check off that box because they don't want to be in a conversation where, oh, we see you haven't versus we see you have. And anytime we are on that latter side of the we see you haven't, there is always the opportunity that will be missed. So I always tell them that you might not want to do it right now, but always keep it as an option, but don't leave it completely off the table.
Absolutely. And even with the application process, so I have seniors again this year, whether they are 100% certain about college or 100% certain against college, I still encourage them. And I even speak to the parents directly to say, hey, even though we're unsure right now, let's still at least submit applications to CUNY so that if you change your mind by the spring semester, you'll still have acceptance letters and you can start college, because that happens too. I have students who in the fall, oh, I don't want to go to college. And then in the spring, all of a sudden they want to go to college, but they didn't complete applications. So I always say still complete your applications. The CUNY application, it's roughly about $65. You can apply to multiple schools. And so it still gives you an opportunity, even if you just want to take a class. You don't even have to finish college, but still, maybe you may want to get some knowledge. Maybe you may just want to have that to fall back on. I think it's really important for our young people to know a lot of successful people that we see around us, they still have college degrees to fall back on. So if they change their mind, if they don't make it, if they want to do something else, they still have it to fall back on. So it is certainly a strong suggestion.
Excellent. Well, again, we speak the same talk, so it's like kind of looking in the mirror but seeing me with long hair. So again, I did put some questions together because those first ones are just coming off the top of my head. But I'm encouraging the audience, if you do have any questions, please pose those questions to both myself and both Erodita. Say it one more time for me, please. I'm so sorry.
Erodita.
Okay, I'm going to make sure that I program it in my brain. But do not forget, ladies and gentlemen, please throw those questions in because we know you got them. We know you're sitting on them, and it's not really one of your strongest suits to ask strangers, but we're not strangers anymore. We are now part of the financial family, and we want you to embrace this financial family. Because we're not going anywhere. I'm going to make sure Erodita stays, and I'm going to haunt her in her dreams about making sure that we do things so that we keep building out our community and making sure that they're financially literate. But I got some questions for you here. So here we go. You started working in education at age 14. What did you see at that age that told you the system needed help and I'm going to be the one to step it up?
So that's a really good question. I feel like I was always around educators because my grandmother was an educator. So she was a preschool director. She was in charge of facilitating activities and workshops for after school program. She was also an adjunct professor. My mom worked in a daycare center. Yeah. So I have been in education practically all my life. And although I probably didn't notice necessarily things that needed to be fixed at 14, I just love the feeling of being in a safe space, being with my peers, and just remembering we never wanted to leave, right? And then I also remember the relationships that I saw my peers build with my grandmother and build with my mom, and how those relationships lasted over time. And I said, I think I could see myself in that role with young people. And I just kind of decided I think I want to work with young people as well. So Yeah, I think it was just, it's probably just in my DNA. And then once I transitioned to high school, I was actually really close with my school counselor at the time.
Okay.
And after college, and when I was really thinking about what I wanted to do, I found myself back in education because I wanted to impact young people in a way that was not in the classroom specifically. And then I remembered how good my relationship was and continued to grow with my school counselor. And then I started a school counseling program and became a school counselor.
Wow. I'm loving it. It's just, I get that same feeling when I go to either, whether it be the high schools or if I go to the preparatory stage schools, which I like to call from pre-K all the way up to 8th grade. And it's all preparation for me anyway. And it's, you can, like I said, you can feel that love, you can feel that joy, and there's nothing more rewarding when you see a child who smiles and is engaged in the lessons, and it is such a rewarding feel. So I can totally see why that pathway, and then having relatives who also equally were in that space. So I can see where that came from. You built your career in an alternative school with at-risk youth. What were the top three realities of the public never sees, and how did these experiences shape your mission today?
The top three, I would certainly say that every student learns differently. Because being in that space, I found some of the students had the ability to do better, but they just needed a different setting. Maybe it was a smaller setting. Maybe it was more opportunities to understand the work, experiencing education in a different way. I loved working in the alternative schools, the credit recovery programs with the at-risk youth. It was fun, and I got to see them grow. I think another one would probably be that everyone deserves a second chance. I've seen students who would go an entire semester. They did not accrue any credits before us. And then they would come to our school, and just with like a little bit of TLC, I mean, they're passing all of their classes, they're passing their Regents examinations. And, when another school probably wrote them off and said, this student is probably not going to graduate, they came to us and they graduated.
Again, I think, I'm sorry, this is what the kids are doing.
That is what the kids are doing now.
I tell you, I'm so connected. I even actually, I had to change the way that I started appearing to the kids, because when it was the suit and tie in the classroom, they was looking at me like, "Mister, what are you talking about?" So they didn't know that I was someone who can mold right into, or mesh right into their understanding and their surroundings. So it was a nice bit of a change for myself as well as for them. Even the show itself is now, I'm looked at as being the dress down CEO, because I've always said I'm not doing a suit and tie any longer. But yes, that was so good. Thank you for sharing that. And everybody does second chance. I'm a second chance. I'm someone who grew up dyslexic, grew up in foster care, grew up with a lot of challenges. And if it were not for educators, individuals like yourself who saw something in me that I didn't see, so it allowed for me to become the person with that TLC. I married into a very prominent family that had resources, and when you have resources, it makes life so much easier. All right, let's keep it going. What is the real reason so many students reach 12th grade without basic financial literacy, budget, credit scores, savings, and who is responsible for that future?
Well, that is a loaded question, Tyrone. But, I would say it really goes to our state mandates, because honestly, it's really, really sad to see that only about 29 of our states currently require a student to take a personal financial literacy course prior to graduation. Like, this is an actual prerequisite in only 29 of our states. And as of right now, New York is not one. I know we are working towards that. I don't think that has been finalized yet, but that is kind of why I started this work, because these students, they come to us, right, as educators, to prepare them for life. And if we are not exposing them to financial literacy before they graduate, it's sad to say, but I think the onus is on us to do it. So, in that way, we are not preparing our students yet. So individually, I know I am so passionate about this work because I know that we can help to build financially responsible leaders if they have the information. If they know better, they can do better. But if we send them out into the world after graduation without these skills, then, in a sense, I do feel like we may have failed them, unfortunately.
I agree, because as we have also in our space, the 10 years within academia, and really looking back and now seeing kids who are coming back to me and saying, oh, Mr. Glover, I wish I would have paid a little bit more attention. Oh, Mr. Glover, do you still have X, Y, and Z? Are you still doing X, Y, and Z? So yes, the state is definitely going to have to pick up some of that, but the household equally needs to do its part in shaping that dynamic as well, because you learn the basics from home, and then you hope when you get out into the world, they can fill in those gaps that mom, grandma, mother, dad, uncle, auntie, whomever you might be spending the majority of your time with are not doing.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like this is just the vicious cycle, right? Because mom and dad went to school where they weren't exposed to financial literacy. So they in turn cannot teach it to their youth, which is why I published my first resource, which is the Power to Plan Student Planning and Financial Literacy Workbook, because this is a powerful tool that can be self-guided, just with the youth alone, or as an educator, as a parent, as a guardian, as an auntie, as a grandmother. You can pick up this workbook and explore 12 fundamental financial literacy topics and start the conversation about money management with your youth. You could just explore one topic per month, one topic per week, but you don't know where to start. Pick up this workbook and we talk about budgeting. What is an emergency fund? What are the 5 factors that impact your credit score? We even have a portion regarding post-secondary readiness where students and youth can respond to 10 common questions regarding interviews, and then they can role play with someone, or they can just complete it on their own. But either way, these are things we want to address. You want to start a business? There's even a topic there about becoming your own boss, how to explore entrepreneurship. Yes, so it has like 6 steps youth can take to start their own business. Just flush through those ideas. But we want to get their wheels turning about entrepreneurship. We don't want this to be something that they just, stumble upon later on in life. So yes, please start having the conversations at home.
Power to Plan, P2S savings at gmail.com. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're with us right now, definitely make sure you're capturing these email and websites as they pop up. But again, we will make sure that we're hoping that you go back and review this later and capture that information. This is gold. All right. This is just as if we just hit a oil well and it's sprouting up out of the ground. It reminds me of the Beverly Hillbillies right now, because Jed didn't know what he was shooting at, but he shot, and guess what happened? So this is literally gold, ladies and gentlemen. This is what you should be starting come 2026. I've started it already in 2025, but I want everybody now. There's nobody who can say in 2 years, in 4 years, in 6 years, in 8 years, I didn't know, because we are bringing it to you live right here. Erodita Anderson is telling, she's got a book, workbook. So what are you waiting for? All right. I want a copy. I'm going to take it to school. I'm going to take it to multiple schools.
Yes,
All right?
please.
Yes. We're going to put you out there. We're going to put you out there. I'm so impressed. Like I said, when Matt said that we're bringing on a new individual who's in that space, just like you are, I could not stop. My face, my jaw was hurting because I kept smiling so much. And it was the same thing, and the same thing that it is with Dr. Yana B. So when I see women in that space, because God blessed you with the ability to carry us around for 9 months, because he knew that us males, we weren't going to do it. So he said, let me entrust this to someone who's really going to have that passion, that nurturing skill set. So again, yes, you have dropped some gems, and we're going to keep it going, because I can keep on that topic forever. Okay. Your PG planner became a #1 new release on Amazon. What gaps in youth financial education were you filling that nobody else had ever paid attention to?
That's a really good question. So I started this work because I had another group of seniors who were transitioning to college, and I was speaking to them about student debt to the point where I would actually log into my account so they could see how much money I owed with my 2 degrees and how unmanageable these student loan payments were, even though, I thought I was doing well. Tuition for me was about $42,000 a year. I finished undergrad with about $20,000 total. So you would think that's not so bad, right? Until, you're an underpaid educator, of course. And then with additional loans for my master's degree, it really adds up. So I realized that they aren't really having these conversations at home, and they are really missing out, and they are likely to make poor financial decisions after graduating from high school if they did not receive this information. So I think the most difficult part was putting together which 12 topics I would explore in this book. But it was inspired by my students, which is what I love, because these were topics that I went over with them, that they resonated with, and that they asked questions about. So literally, again, we are just talking about the basics, how to create a budget. What is the 50-20-30 budgeting rule? What is an emergency fund, right? So we just spoke about the shutdown, which was really, really unfortunate. Mm-hmm. But that is why we want to make sure we have an emergency fund. The fact that my students were about to graduate from high school and no one had ever had a conversation with them about an emergency fund was very disheartening. We spoke about credit scores and how you have to pay that money back, right? How to manage credit responsibly. That is another activity in the workbook as well. So the workbook is composed of 12 fundamental financial literacy topics, activities, and also worksheets as well. So we want to try to address the whole student, the entire youth, and just make it really digestible so that parents can have these conversations with their young ones.
Outstanding. Yes. All right. And again, the information, ladies and gentlemen, gold. If you do not, again, I'm asking all of you, come back, review it again, make sure that you are marking and getting these emails, or excuse me, not emails, but the email address, as well as the website. Matt is doing, not Matt, but somebody's doing an amazing job. It might be AI, but to keep popping up and keep seeing it. Again, gold nuggets. Let's keep it going. You're running savings challenges with students. What did these challenges teach you about how young people think about money and how adults underestimated them?
Wow, that's a really good question. So I guess I also did not mention in the workbook, it has a $1,000 savings challenge. So basically, the idea of this is we know that many students may not save their first $1,000 necessarily, but starting off with as little as $8 a week and without saving any more than $29 in any given week, if students save that amount of money each week, they can save their first $1,000. The first thing is to show them how tangible and how possible it is to save $1,000. When you look at the savings challenge, it's just composed of 52 bags of money. So students can like cross out or color in whatever they're able to save. And then there's also a deposit tracker form as well, so that they can track their savings thus far. So when I started the savings challenge with the students, they were so receptive to it. And even though they had never, a lot of them had never really saved before, it was so incredible to see how just with a little bit of guidance, they wanted to save. They were excited about saving. They would come to me on a weekly basis and tell me how much they saved and, you know, how they prepared lunch and they didn't spend money at Popeyes because they were working towards their savings goal for the week. So it really just showed that all our children need is a little bit of guidance. That light will go off in their brain and they will want to work towards a goal. If they see that you're invested, they will become invested as well. If they see why it works, they'll follow along as well.
All right, we got our first question. What's the best way to introduce our children to money?
What's the best way to introduce our children to money? I would certainly say introduce your child to money. I wouldn't even say necessarily through an allowance per se, but let them work for their money. I remember doing little things around the house. Of course, you have your chores, right, that are unpaid. But I remember during the summer, my grandmother would have me read fables, and then I had to write a book report. And I would get $2 for each book report I submitted to her. And at first, you know, I was motivated by the money, of course, but then I started learning through literature and it became fun. So I was able to connect that experience to me actually earning my money. And then we learned how to save the money. So it was a process. It wasn't a, hey, this is what you're going to do, right? I had choices. You can read one fable or you can read 10. It's up to you how much money you want to earn. So I was able to control my finish line and have, you know, that sense of authority to say, okay, well, I get to do this on my own time, but I'm also earning my money. And then I learned how to save as well.
Oh, wow. That's a nice one. Yes. Oh, you know, I'm taking some of these notes, right? Making sure. Nephews and nieces next year. Again, you want uncle's money, or they call it that bread.
Next year, December.
I'm going to give them the rest of 2025. I'm going to give them, because they're already in that, I want stage, but I've already told them you're not getting it from me because I've got a whole new plan for you as of 2026. But that's a very good one. Is mother and grandmother still with us? Because again, this I want to bring them in. They seem like they still got a bunch of gold nuggets as well. That is truly amazing that they were able to bless you and keep that momentum, and you're living right through them. So again, truly a blessing.
Yes.
All right. So you've seen students come from the unstable environment, but still rise when given the right tools. What's the most powerful transformation story you've witnessed?
The most powerful transformation story I have witnessed. That's a tough one. I'm sifting through so many in my mind. But I would say, I would honestly say I had a young man who didn't have, his parents. He was raised by his grandmother. And I think it's always funny. The students you pour into the most, the ones you think will be the ones that stick around, usually aren't. Sometimes they do. I do have a lot of those, but sometimes it's the students who you don't really realize the little things you do for them that impact them the most. So this young man, he was raised by his grandma. And, I always just have a soft spot for students who aren't, with their biological parents per se. So, I would check on him every now and again, even help get him supplies that he needed for school. And even after graduation, this student kept in touch with me, always called me for the holiday, always called for my birthday, just kept me, up to date with what was going on with him. And he is doing so well now after high school. I am so proud of him. And then even returned back a few weeks ago to school to see me because he is just making a multitude of money, which is incredible. And he came to me and just said, I am making all of this money and I don't know what to do with it. Can you please help me? And I literally had to fight back tears because this is the reason that I do this work. And then I had to choke back my emotions. I sat him down at the desk, got a laptop, and had him sign up and register for an online account where he doesn't have a debit card. We set out a budget for him, how much he could save each month, and then still assist his grandmother paying her rent, which is incredible, giving back to grandma. And it was just so incredible to see full circle that, he was listening to me about managing his money all these years when I probably didn't even have many conversations with him, right? But he still remembered all the way back from over 5 years ago.
Wow.
So I love to see that, they take heed and they're listening. And he came back to me because he wanted to be financially responsible and he's been saving.
Outstanding. Well, please, if he does come back, tell him that Mr. Glover and everybody here at Soul City, we congratulate him. We are definitely rooting for him to continue that financial success and to pass it on to that youth in his circle so that they equally are doing the exact same thing. That was a powerful story. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see. If you had a microphone in front of you, what you do for all student administrators and policymakers, what would you tell them about the urgency of real world financial literacy?
Oh, you know what? Just zoom in. Administrators, policymakers, please listen and take heed. We have to incorporate financial literacy and entrepreneurship into our curriculum. It is a must. Other states already have this requirement, but we need to go beyond just the bare minimum. I don't mean one class. I mean, this can be incorporated into multiple subject areas, not just one class where, they are just talking about topics briefly. We need to find a way to incorporate this into our curriculum in every aspect of our education. We also need to include our parents. We have to make sure that the parents are continuing the conversations. Yes, we see the students in school, but we need to provide resources so that our parents can also be financially responsible, because if they are not doing the right thing in their home, if they don't have an emergency fund, if they are using credit cards to purchase everything that they want, and they are not looking at their credit card utilization, or they don't have good credit, that will trickle down to our students, and they are our future. So if we want to build financially responsible leaders, it starts in the classroom. Educators, it starts with us. Even if it is not a prerequisite for graduation, you have the power to put this in your curriculum. You have the power to have these conversations with our students because they're with us every day. So we have to work diligently. We have to do this immediately. It is not something that can wait. It has to happen now.
It's no longer optional. It is essential.
Absolutely.
I'm completely with you. And I love the fact that you brought in that parent element, because I was doing an article and one of my friends that I don't know if it was a friend or a passerby, where he was telling me, you may be born looking like your parents, but you will die looking like your decisions. Which for me, that was a chill. It went right all the way through my entire soul. I was like, wow, that is so true. So it's really important. Educators, administrators, elected officials, dog catchers, all the way up to the president of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, take this serious. We can get in front of any challenge. And all we have to do is want it more than those of us who are presenting it to us. So yes, STEM is STEM, not going to knock STEM, but I think we need to add a couple of more letters to that understanding, because financial literacy can no longer be a back of the bus type of conversation. We must continue to bring it out and highlight it and do everything that we possibly can, so the next generation is not saddled with the hardships of the past 7 generations. I don't know what to say anymore. I mean, everything that comes out of you is so important. If you folks do not go back and listen to this, I'm going to make sure that I'm sending it out on my social media platforms. I'm going to make sure that people hear what you're saying. So again, let's keep it going. Let's see. You're building inside you've built programs inside the Boys and Girls Club and high schools. What's the key to keeping financial literacy engaging, not boring or overwhelming?
That's a good question. And I think that is probably why I almost had a brain aneurysm selecting these 12 topics I would explore in my workbook, right? Because I wanted to make it digestible. I said, I want to create these topics. I need it to be digestible for both the youth and our guardians and educators. And I need it to be easy and simple. We want to keep it as simple as possible, but also convey a message. And I wanted to do that in 7 sentences or less, right? So the other work that I have, My Savings in 12 Envelopes, we have 12 fundamental financial literacy topics on the front of each envelope. And then on the back of each envelope, there are application and research questions. So this is where it kind of encourages youth to do independent research. And then also it gives them prompts for personal reflection. So it makes it fun, right? You're saving in your envelopes, and the envelopes are sealable, and they're following the template, so that the savings in my savings in 12 envelopes has a $1,000 savings challenge, and then a $5,000 and $10,000 for families to save along as well. But it makes saving tangible and fun. And then we also have little activities throughout the workbook and also in My Savings in 12 Envelopes as well, because we want it to be engaging. We don't want it to feel like learning, right? Because students already do that in school, and that's not fun for them. So even when I facilitate workshops, we always have an activity to just really, really make everything make sense. And it's also fun. I think that is the key. It has to incorporate life lessons. So when we're talking about, credit scores and how your credit score impacts your car loans, the activity in the workbook and that we also complete in the workshop is between 2 buyers purchasing the same vehicle. So students get to explore who pays a higher interest rate based on their credit scores. How much interest does one person pay? One person pays $359 versus $575 for the same exact vehicle based on their credit score. So they get to see in real time how your credit score impacts how much you pay for a car. We make
No,
it fun.
no, and then that's again really important. I'm in schools all the time, and I can see the difference between our pre-K to all the way up to our high schoolers, and they're different as far as their age is concerned. But when you can create something where they're engaged and they're laughing and they're jovial about the subject matter, but still focused on taking in that content, it is a true reward. So yes, that keeping it on that fun level, because as soon as you lose them,
They're
you
gone.
lost them for a bit, and it's going to be kind of challenging to bring them back into that conversation. All right, so you've prepared countless students for interviews and careers. What's the single best mistake teens make when preparing themselves professionally?
That is a great question. And again, I think this was inspired by my students. Why I decided to include a section in the workbook where students just literally write out their responses to the top 10 interview questions, right? So that they are prepared. And I think I kind of decided that this was necessary because I usually recommend students for internships and summer programs. And one of my students who was like in the top 5%, better yet, the top 2% of the entire class, I usually invite them to my office to kind of role play and just to see where they are to make sure they're prepared for their interview. And as smart as he was, as eloquent as he was, he could not convey his ideas in an interview. He completely froze up. And in that moment, I realized that we have a lot of work to do to prepare our youth to be competitive for these positions in the real world, because they could be the smartest, they could be the brightest, they can be the best worker when they get there. But if they cannot pass that interview, if they cannot master their interviewing skills, they will miss out on opportunities. So the best thing for them to do is to write out your responses. I think it's a 3 or 4 step program that I usually recommend. Fill out and write down your responses to at least 10 questions so that you are familiar with what ideas you want to convey to your interviewer. And always make sure you have questions prepared as well. And then I recommend that they kind of record themselves so that they can see how they look to the interviewer. How's your body language? How's your posture? How's your face? And then even invite someone, a friend, a guardian, or a trusted adult to interview you as well, so that you can become comfortable and you are relaxed and you're not nervous. So when you're sitting in front of your interviewer, it's not for the first time. And this is all what we explore in the workbook as well.
Oh, again, as someone who came from corporate America for 30 plus years and then into the academic space, that you are, again, that's another gold that people do not understand. Again, just being able to feel confident in front of a stranger, that is powerful. When you know that I'm good for the job. I'm a good person. Matter of fact, I'm an honest, decent, responsible, integrity person, dignity. But yet, when you get in front of somebody, it's like, oh my goodness, what was that I wanted to say? So, absolutely, practicing it, rehearsing it is definitely a key piece of creating that confidence. As you can see, time does fly. We have maybe 1 or 2 more questions that we'll be able to get to you. But again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the interaction. We know that sometimes you might be busy at this time frame, but we're imploring you definitely, as time opens up, go back, check out this particular session. Check out Erodita's very first session on Soul City. Go back and look through Soul City's archives and get that knowledge. But Erodita, before we wrap it up, if every family implemented the principles in your Power to Plan workbook, what difference would their financial future look like in 5 to 10 years from now?
Well, 5 to 10 years from now, if a family really abided by everything in the book and explored what is necessary, number one, they would have a very healthy savings account. They would also have an emergency fund as well. So that family would be able to survive, just like COVID, where people lost their jobs and people were behind on rent. That is why you have your emergency fund, right? And then you also will have your savings. Only about 40% of Americans can cover an unexpected expense of $1,000 or more.
Okay.
5 years from now, if you are following the $1,000 template or even the $5,000 template or the $10,000 template, you will have that money saved in your account. And then also, we will be able to build entrepreneurs. There's a section in the book where young people can start fleshing out ideas to build their own business. We really want to empower our young entrepreneurs. Sometimes all they need is a platform to say, hey, you know what? I think I can start a business. I want to start a business. We also host an annual youth entrepreneurship fair where students and youth come and they showcase their products and services to the community. Our next fair is actually going to be on April 18th. And we are accepting applications now. You can visit the website. There is an entrepreneurship section there at www.power2plan.com. If you are interested in finding information about our upcoming youth entrepreneurship fair. So yes, I mean, this is the journey that we are trying to start with our families and with our youth. And in 5 to 10 years, we will just continue to build these financially responsible leaders.
I love it. I love it. Power2plan.com. P2, what was the other one? P2 savings, right?
P2P savings at Gmail. Yes.
P2P savings at gmail.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I had the distinct pleasure, the honor of being with someone who is already, in my opinion, a goddess when it comes to this space. Thank you so much for making time to continue the conversation. Erodita Anderson, you are truly someone and a force to be reckoned with. Your students should be lucky. I am truly lucky. Soul City Network is lucky, and we are looking for great things from you to come. So thank you for making time this afternoon. Anything else you want to say before we have to let it go?
Thank you so much. I just appreciate the work you are doing, and thank you so much for having me. And I just look forward to the work that we can do together.
Outstanding. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is another session of Leverage Your Score. We want to thank you for tuning in, those of you who decided to be with us live, and we want to thank those of you who will go back and view this later. I want to thank again my guest, Erodita Anderson. I want to thank Soul City. I want to thank the entire financial space, because without us, things could be a lot worse for other individuals. So thank you very much, everyone. And as always, be safe, America.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.